சோதியன் அம்பலத்திலாடுவாய் மாலை சீலம்படி வாழ்த்தி வணங்குவோம். மாலை சீலம்படி வாழ்த்தி வணங்குவோம். உலகலாம் உணர்ந்து போதுக்கு அறியவன் நீல உலாவிய நின்மணி வேண்டிய. ஓம் ஸ்ரீ சத்சங்கா.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरा गुरुर्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः. ध्यानमूलं गुरुर्मूर्ति पूजामूलं गुरुपदं मन्त्रमूलं गुरुर्वाक्यं मोक्षमूलं गुरुकृपा मोक्षमूलं शिवानन्दे कृपा. त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धु च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेवाय. हरि ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः. ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः. ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः. नमस्ते.
Thank you, Heavenly Father. Once again, O Lord, we come to you in the sweet and lovely name of Jesus. We do want to thank you for the gathering together with your dear children as we remember and celebrate our forefathers who arrived in our country 1860 since, Lord. Thank you for your mercy, your grace, your love that you bestowed upon them through their travels. We thank you for the trials, the tribulations, the heartaches, and pain that our forefathers endured, Lord, to reach their destination. At this time, we remember those that perished in the times of the travel through difficulties. May their souls rest in peace. And also those that survived, we thank you for their endurance, the perseverance to reach their destination. And today, Lord, we can enjoy the fruits of their labor, Lord. Thank you for the many talents that they have taught us, the skills that they instilled in us, that today, Lord, as a community, we can be glad to be established as good citizens of South Africa. Thank you for all that they have taught us. Thank you, Lord, that we will live in unity. We'll start to respect one another. We pray, Lord, the leadership of our country will see everyone as equal, just as, Lord, the side of God, we are all equal. We pray your peace to be upon each one, even, Lord, the organization of this commemoration. We ask that you bless each one that organizes this. And we know, Lord, we will have a great time together, celebrating and remembering a great thing that happened in our lives. So today, Lord, bless each one, guide and direct, and let your peace be bestowed upon each one of us till we meet. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, namaste and vanakkam. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كل وليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا وذليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعة وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. إلهي بحق محمد وأنت المحمود. إلهي بحق علي وأنت العالى. إلهي بحق فاطمة وأنت فاطر السماوات والأرض. إلهي بحق الحسن وأنت المحسن. إلهي بحق الحسين وأنت قديم الإحسان. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. I greet you all in a message and a greeting of peace, and we pray to God Almighty that we remain to have this unity amongst all of us in the coming years and for the forever future, in the name of God Almighty. Thank you all.
If we could remain standing, please, and if I could ask you to please just move on to my right. I would ask you to stay here, but it is sunny, so I don't want to keep you in the sun. If you can, move on to my right. And as we are celebrating 1860, our forefathers, we must never forget that we are born in this country. It is our motherland, and at the end of the day, we are true, proud South Africans. And with that, could I please have the national anthem? So we must definitely note that God herself wants us to stay united. Now with every function, and the Hindu community would know today is a very auspicious day. It is the start of a new month in the Tamil calendar, which is Kartigay. It's about a month where we light lamps. We light lamps in our home to bring light, and we know that on the Mahakartigay people on the 13th of December as well. Now, for the very first day, I'd like to say for this function, if we can have our lamp lighting ceremony, and for that, could we please call Kogan and Archery to light the main lamp, followed by Shirley, Ashley, and Premila. Once they are, getting ready to light the lamps, at the end of the day, the reason why we should also never forget the 16th of November is because as we always celebrate and respect our ancestors, because they say our ancestor blessings are very important in our lives, with their blessings we are able to reach our goals in life. So today, for those who don't know exactly, the ancestors, where they came from, exactly where in India they came from, who were our first line of ancestors, today let's take a minute while they light this lamp to say thank you to them and ask for their blessings, because that's what it is really about. It's about asking them to bless us and thank them for the blood, sweat and tears that they put on those sugarcane fields and make sure that today we have the dignity and stand here as a citizen of South Africa. Okay, and then the last part of it, if we could please have Pradeep and Sydney for the garlands, and Neela and Yashoda, please. For those who are not too familiar about why we garland someone, whether it's a friend or whether it is someone in person in front of us, because it's a sign of respect. A sign of respect showing that we are grateful for their existence, as well as it's a sign of higher respect as such. Just as how we will put our hands together to greet. Thank you, Pradeep, Sydney, Neela, and Yashoda for that. Thank you so much, our respected priests. If you can, please take your seats. Thank you so much for starting this beautiful occasion with your prayer. Just absolutely appreciate it. Now, whilst everyone makes their way back, to see youngsters do cultural events, to see youngsters, it makes my heart really happy when you see them continue with the culture. When they talk the mother tongue in their homes, when they go to school, whether it's summer school, Arabic school, or Hindi classes, the fact that they are continuing and they want to know what their forefathers spoke, and they want to know about these languages and the culture, it really brings joy to all of our hearts. I can say that with confidence. And someone who's been working with the youth for 3 years, it just brings joy when I see them take a stand, because they are our future leaders of this country. So while we say thank you, and once again we have completed our formalities, we're going to now go into the invocation dance. Now, to introduce this dynamic little, I would say, she's a dynamite, and when they say dynamite comes in small packages, they're not lying to you. I first fell in love with her when I received a function and I saw her dance. I that moment forgot I was MC. Because that's how flawed I was with her performance. So could we please put your hands together for Mahatika Veeramani, who's coming through to do the invocation dance. She is my Shabu's #1 fan, I would say, in this country. Come on, Maria.
ಮೂಷಿಕವಾಗನಮೋದಗ ಅಸ್ತ ಶಾಮರಕರ್ಣ ವಿಳಂಬಿತ ಸೂತ್ರ ವಾಮನ ರೂಪ ಮಹೇಶ್ವರ ಪುತ್ರ ವಿಘ್ನ ವಿನಾಯಕ ಪಾದ ನಮಸ್ತೆ ವಿಘ್ನ ವಿನಾಯಕ ಪಾದ ನಮಸ್ತೆ
वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि नीलकण्ठाय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि.
One more time, round of applause, please. The encouragement that we give you today that will allow us to be natural leaders tomorrow. Now, could we please have Mr. Stephen Archery who will do the official welcome?
Vanakkam, namaste, namaskaram. Good day to one and all of you, and a very warm welcome on behalf of our Sri Mariamman Temple, the Edgecombe Arts and Cultural Council, the 1860 Commemoration Council, and all our partners that are here, the Girmatias, if you're a Bredo, if you're a Tamil or a Parajo Gurmat, if you understand the English language of both, it would be agreement. So our parents couldn't pronounce agreement. Remember, they spoke in their mother tongue, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, and all the other languages, Urdu, Gujarati, and so on. And so the word Gurmat came about, Girmatia. Girmatia is the person. Gurmat is the agreement. And so we are products of those Girmatias. We are children that came after them. And when they were brought here, I want to remind you, although I do this every year, but it's my pleasure to remind you that the British abolished slavery in 1830 something, somewhere around there. 1834. Mr. Jay Singh reminds me, he is an historian. I'm going to his function tomorrow. You are all invited to the Vedlam function tomorrow. And so they needed workers in the sugarcane plantations that were turning out to be success in other colonies, such as Fiji and Mauritius and so on. And so they needed to bring workers down to the colony of Port Natal. And so one way of enticing us, conning us, lying to us, was to use a very modern word called indenture. Some of you like to say you are products of indenture. Another name, the correct name of indenture is what? Slavery. We are children of slaves. No shame in that. No harm in that. That is what the history is. It's a fact. And so, if you say indenture, not full well you're saying slavery. If you say slavery, then that is the correct description of what that contract was worth. And all of you know that contract was not even worth the paper it was written on when they brought us here to the colony of Port Natal. Our parents persevered, they toiled, they were abused to no end, but they still succeeded because we are charos. We have the tenacity to succeed against all odds. You plant us in a desert, we'll make that into a rich sugarcane field. You give us a dam, we'll change that whole thing into an ocean. That is the tenacity of the community that we live in and that we come from, and we should be very proud of that. We shouldn't hide our identity. What we did with that tenacity and that skill is that we changed the economy of first Port Natal, then other provinces, and the whole of this country called the Republic of South Africa. We didn't do just that. We fought the colonials and all their symbols. And we beat the colonials, especially the British. Then we fought the Afrikaner together with the English and beat apartheid. We beat it. We had people, men and women, that stood shoulder to shoulder with our African brothers and our colored brothers and some of the white people to defeat an evil called apartheid, to defeat an evil called colonialism. We defeated it, and we survived, and we prospered. But you all know, whether you are Hindu, whether you are of the Christian faith, whether you are of the Muslim faith or the Islamic faith or any other faith, at the forefront of that success story is education. We used education as a tool to beat the colonial masters and the apartheid masters. And beat them we did. We produced some of the best teachers in the country, best doctors, lawyers, engineers, and farmers. We did that. And it's a proud history. And so today when we gather here, I want to say to you, on behalf of the Monetary Arts and Cultural Council, on behalf of our mother, on behalf of the Lord that you worship, there is a very difficult process, which is easy really, that's the contradiction, is to unite as a community. But I can tell you, many of you will go back to the moon and come back. We still wouldn't be united. Because of language barriers, because of religious barriers, and any other barrier. And one of the things that's now very distinct in our community is the class barrier. The rich and the poor, not caste. We shame that devil called caste in South Africa. If it creeps back, will need to deal with it. We've got the Girimati Association. These fellows are very vociferous. They will deal with that caste system. You know, Pradeep gave me a book. Hinduism is not caste. That was created by some historian or some people who invaded India. We are a casteless society. In other words, how can you say that fellow there must eat after me, or he must walk behind me? What made you superior? So you think about that. I won't give you the answers. You have the answers. Because if you have the answers, you have those answers for your children and your grandchildren as well. That we grow up in an equal society and we fight. And so talking about fight, and I'm setting the trend for this, is that we have many things to fight for in our country. Am I right, Mr. Jason? The difficulty that you had and all your peers had during those old days, you succeeded, has come back to visit us in the form of affirmative action and all those things that are associated with holding back a community. Can you imagine if all of us put our shoulders to the wheel, what a prosperous country we could be? Instead of seeing us as Indian, you should see us as our ID says, we are South Africans. You should see us as the Constitution says, we are black. Why would you separate us? Because we place education at the forefront and we are able to succeed as a result of that good education. So I also want to tell you, my brothers and sisters, if you saw what we did here today, it is the way to go forward. Bring in all the language groups, bring in all the religious groups, and let's form that unity that we continuously talk about. I know, Mr. Singh, I won't be here when that unity comes about. I'll join you upstairs there. We'll watch from the top. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going before you or you before me, but we'll check from the top. And so Lord Shiva will show us whether we are being united. We have 1.6 million or thereabouts in our country, and we are unable to do what the Americans have done. The impossible dream of putting a black man as the president of the country in the form of Obama, and we almost had Kamala Harris. Almost. Yeah, Usha Vance. But then there's also Tulsi Gabbard, who's going to be handling the intelligence agency. She's a spy master, right? Charles are good spies. And in England, the bastion of colonialism, the center of evil. Colonialism was evil. They took all the things from us. It's like me coming to your house, taking all your wealth, and then throwing you some dal and rice every day to eat, and I get fat. I'm not talking about me, but I'm talking about the concept, the principle. And so, we had Rishi Sunak. You know, I think all of you said this. The circle has come to a full stop there. It turned an entire circle. For an Indian to be the Prime Minister of Great Britain. What's so great about them in any event? But they call themselves, it's like me saying Stephen the Great. I'm calling myself that, not you. They call themselves Great Britain. So in any event, we learn lessons from throughout the world, and the one thing that we would like to do is to hold hands with one another and go towards a common cause. The previous enemy was apartheid, before that colonialism. Now the new enemy is the corruption and the greed and the lack of opportunities for us to prosper as a society. And so I take this opportunity of welcoming all the organizations. Some of you went for a good walk. I think some of you took a dip in the sea. I hope it had blue flag status, otherwise you'll be coming back with something else from the Devon beaches. and our August guests who agreed to participate in this function today. I remind you, we've given you limited time. I'm the only one not given time, and our keynote address. So there's a little change in the program as a result of some family commitments. So Pradeep Ramlal comes earlier on in the program, And therefore, we'd want to accommodate that. But also, on this very momentous day, I'm reminded, we landed here on the 16th of November, but we put foot on African soil on the 17th of November. And that quarters is still there at Ushaka Marine World. If you go to Ushaka Marine World, on the one side, we planned a memorial at the park. So if you're facing it from the sea, on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, well, you call it gondolas, where they paddle those boats. The wall or the quarantine barracks is still there. That property is still there. The place where they quarantined our parents. Now, those of you who are familiar with quarantine, you'll know that quarantine animals. Today, if you're on a livestock farm, you quarantine animals and then you spray them with disinfectant and then you take them out. That is what we were subjected to. That place is still there. It is the same place where they imprisoned Chief Bambata because he fought against the British as regards the poll tax. And so all those places have historical value. So, and I want to tell you this. When we were elected to the subcommittee dealing with monuments for the 1860 in 2010, it was myself, Ishwar Ramlachman, and the late Uncle Vic Pillay. And we sent to the Premier's office a monument that depicts something very similar to what you see in the background. A man cutting cane, a woman carrying the cane, and you know, those days there was no creches, so the woman carried the child on her back. I don't know if we invented that, Mr. Singh, was research that. Whether we invented and carried our children in the side or slung at the back. And so, that would have been an ideal monument. It took us 6 years from 2011 to find the spot at Ushaka Marine World where these guys went and did the walk today. Another 2 years was lost as a result of statues must fall. If you remember the road statues and so on, that is what happened. And then there was a pushback by a madman who was part of the Nguni Njeje group, said nasty things about the Indians. And so that delayed the monument. And then they brought in experts, artists, who could tell us what the monument should look like. If you look at the monument, you need a degree in maths to work out what they put there in front of you to say whether it was an 1860 monument. One fellow said, if you go to space, you must have printed on the floor 1860. Now, how many of you and I are going to go to space? Except when they do the final rites for us. Then we're buying upstairs. So we had some crazy ideas, but it was there. But from 2011, the drawings that were sent to the Premier's office was similar to what you see in the background. One look and you know this is us. This is our parents. It would have been on a 3 or 4 meter high plinth, and that statue would have been another 2 or 3 meters high, looking at the sea in the direction that the ships brought our parents. Historic, right? Very profound and to the point. But then, there's many of us here who are fighting the issue of a slave master's bell that is going to be erected on the Ushaka Marine site that we fought for. A slave master's bell is used for a few reasons. 1 hour before work time starts in the morning, they ring the bell. Those of you who lived in the sugar bell will identify this bell. It had a huge arch and a bell in the center. They rang the bell to wake you up to go to work. They rang that bell to tell you that the mill was closing or the sugarcane fields were closing. The third time they rang the bell was when there were cane fires. Now, how many of you lived in sugarcane estates? Whenever there was cane fire, you had to take all your clothes out from the line quickly. Close the windows, close the doors, otherwise your house was loaded with cane dust. And so, which person in their right mind would agree to putting a slave master's bell as a memorial and as a testament to the struggles of our parents? Somebody got it very wrong, or a committee got it very wrong, and I want you to know this, because let me tell you what's the other problem amongst all of us here. We are docile. We keep quiet. Yeah, somebody read a para for us. Somebody will say something on our behalf. It's not happening. They are going ahead. But Ishwar Ram Lachman, Pradeep Ramla, Pranil Singh, Charles Naidu, and a few of us yesterday. There was one more gentleman that accompanied. Nat. We went down to the Premier's office in Durban and we argued our point, and they are now going to have further discussions. He said we mustn't misquote him, we must use the right words. We are going to have further discussions. And we are going to fight till we get what is due and proper and respectful for our parents. I like it when you clap. If you can clap a little louder, it would be nice. I'm going to tell the chef, make sure she put extra chili powder in your curry and make it more tasty. And so, today is also another momentous day. We'll launch a book, and I'll want to leave that thunder to Pradeep. We'll launch a book. We've launched many books regarding the history of our people. We are well documented because we have some of the best. You'll find in the midst of some of our speakers there are professors and doctors, community activists who know exactly why we are where we are as community activists. And so we are blessed that we could have groups that are formed in order to create a mass movement of people knowing exactly their history. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you. We wanted to take part in this. I know it was a little bit long, but I needed to do this in order to tell you at this juncture, this is what the fight is, and that we must continue the battle and support all the organizations that are hosting these functions and their actions to unite our community. Thank you very much.
I'm rather short. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Seelan Archery. For all those speakers that are coming on, I was requested to please let you know if we can keep it to 2 minutes, because we all want to have lunch on time. So just keeping that in mind, if we could please just limit it to 2 minutes. 4 minutes. Okay, we're being generous now. 4 minutes, please. Okay, so the next speaker, we could call on Mr. Pradeep Ramla, who will render his speech, and thereafter, immediately after, he'll talk about the book launch, which is Challenges in a Colonial Country.
Namaste, Namaskaram, Vanakkam, Assalamu Alaikum. Good morning to each and every one of you. Today, as we celebrate and honor our ancestors, let us remember this word. We can forgive, but we cannot forget. And it is with this background that we have gathered here today to remember and honor the legacy of our ancestors. It's my salutations to all the ancestors and invitees. I wish to acknowledge the presence of the officials of the Sri Mariamman Temple, the 1860 Commemoration Council, the Cultural Center of Mount Edgecombe and North Coast, and the Hindu Unity Forum. All are equal in this temple yard. As we mark the 164th arrival day in South Africa, indentureship was euphemistically neo-slavery that the world has forgotten about, and an Indian civilization that has to take care of itself and its destiny independent of the motherland, India. we are just like abandoned children. That the British had committed such a heinous crime that it will haunt the history of the British rule in India and elsewhere in the world. However, the universal law of retribution means as you sow, so shall you reap. You can't change it. Gravity exists. You can't change the law of gravity. So what you do to us, it will come back to you. In my talk, I want to compare the struggles of our ancestors to that of our current plight of Girmityas 164 years later in this inverted commas rainbow nation. George Orwell, the author of the famous book Animal Farm, stated that the most effective way to destroy people is to deny the obliterate and obliterate their own understanding of history. I will come to that when we talk about this book later. Now, many of you all may not know who George Orwell was. He was born in Bihar, in the northern states of India. He was a great writer, Animal Farm. It's a joke. Everybody can see what's happening in this country. Some are more equal than others. In Professor Surendra Bhana, Recorded History, reference is made to a Munsami Naidu. He charged that the South African Indian Congress consisted of a few wealthy, and in inverted commas, I'm quoting the exact words, Mohammedans and Banyas, who had no mandate to speak on behalf of our community. He supported Ayers Stand, which was apparently reported to the newspapers abroad before the manifesto had been presented to the then Prime Minister. He's quoting from Natal Mercury, 18th March 1927. And let us listen to the wise words of a Nigerian author, Chinya Achebe. Things fall apart. Look at our country and ask, why is it falling apart? And Chinya Achebe, he said that until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. It's very important statements to understand what is currently going on and the narrative that is being spun by the media. Whilst India played the major role in the fight against apartheid at the United Nations in 1946 by imposing economic sanctions, whilst the Indians of indenture contributed to the and fighting and dismantling apartheid in this country, we are now forgotten. As a result of the sanctions, the poor and marginalized of the Girmit community were faced with a double-edged sword of poverty, prejudice, and cultural isolation, effectively becoming the forgotten children of what is now called Bharat, which many call India. We were forgotten. Who cared about us? They were the elitists who wrote their side of the story. Despite institutionalized racial discrimination, the indentured suffered the most because we were victims of our own success, because of our intellect, skills, resilience, and tenacity. The South African indentured suffered the most in the diaspora community because of cultural isolation, as mentioned by George Orwell, as furthermore economic sanctions that were imposed by India at that time. We suffered. We never cried. How the Congress sold our rights by Munsami Naidu. The story that you don't hear about. Why? Because authors who write our history control the narrative. As I said, what Surendra Bhana said, but the sad thing is Surendra Bhana is no more here today, but he's being honored. But he represented the merchant class. When we achieved democracy, he ran away from this country. And today we're honoring him. He didn't come here as a struggle hero to our country, but he was employed by the then UDW, the Broederbond, to work in that country, to work in that university, so he can perpetuate the narrative of the ruling party, then the Broederbond. This is what Munsami Naidu said. As tillers of the soil and the permanent settlers in the country, we say that the Congress is doing great injury to the public. I am glad at least one man who came forward to show them up in their true colors. In order to get more trade licenses for the members of the Congress, laboring class Indian rights were bartered for. We were used as cannon fodder to say we are carrying out economic transformation, but it was only for a select few. But the Congress used us. In a word, time after time, the Congress consists of mainly wealthy Mohammedans and Banyas, has sold our rights in the name of a community for their sole benefit. So today when you ask yourself why you are disadvantaged, why left-wing political parties think that we are all wealthy people, they don't know our history, because our history has never been told the way it happened. We were equally disadvantaged like the vast majority of black Africans in this country. But the perception created in that human rights report, he says the people of Phoenix have economic domination. What nonsense. We came here with nothing, just a vesti or a dhoti with hardly any food on the ship, but we survived. And the Congress tells the government that Indians are willing to repatriate themselves. I'm sorry, that wasn't true. Because we were further exploited by the merchant class who came to this country. They saw in us an opportunity to make money. They didn't come here for our salvation. They didn't come here to defend our rights. What right have they to do this? We farmers have had meetings and decided to tell the government through you that we are not going to repatriate ourselves. We made our South Africa, the colony of Natal, our home. And today some councillor in the eThekwini municipality says, go back to Bombay. How can we allow that? Why should we? We are not doing any harm to anyone. We till the soil of this land. We made a living. We didn't steal. I don't see why we should leave this country and look for new pastures. This is our birthplace. We will stay here until we pass on. And this is a quote: the bones of my forefathers rest in this country, and it is a sacrilege for me to leave it. If Kaji, Surabji and Godfrey won trading rights and franchise rights, we are not going to allow getting it by shouldering us out of this country. I think if the followers of the Congress won these rights, they make a mistake to think that they will get it in this way. We Indian farmers are determined to challenge these mischief makers for their claim to speak for us. Today, who is our voice? Tell me honestly, there is no voice. That time, the Natal Indian Congress, the Transvaal Indian Congress was our voice. They sold us out because they wanted positions in Parliament. Today, the same fat cats have looted also. Many of them are billionaires in their own rights. Some Congress leaders also, trade union leaders, they're all billionaires in some way or the other. They pretend to be communist. One recently passed away. He's got shares overseas. More than ever, the words of Chinya Cheba are opposite. Until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Why is the story of economic hardship of Munsami Naidu not being spoken about? Why was the voice of the indentured muted? What happened to the 5 who lost their lives in Blackburn village, not far from here? Do you ever hear about it? The only thing we glorify, Mahatma Gandhi. What did he do for us as Girmitias? The truth be told, go read the history. There are many organizations in India rewriting the history, changing the narrative because the truth is now emerging because of social media and YouTube. In addition to the large number of passenger Indians regularly settled in Natal in pursuit of economic opportunities, we can see what has happened. We have become a victim of their success. I will give you an example. I worked in the Divine Life Society as a student from 1980. There was a person by the name of S.K. Naidu, he is late. He had a sari shop. And this is a true story. When he wanted to buy saris from Surat and from Gujarat, he was blocked. S.K. Naidu had a standard 2 education. When he wanted to go to India, the traders there were told, do not supply saris to him because he is South Indian. I am not making a story. He went to Singapore, he had to buy goods. S.K. Naidu sari started by buying from Singapore and selling to the people in Prince Edward Street. Who told his story? Nobody. When he wanted to buy rice, dal, masala, lentils, there were 3 qualities: A category, B category, C category. Girmitya people were given the C category with weevils in it. And I'm standing here before my ancestors. I will justify what I'm saying is the truth. This is how we were treated by the merchant class in this country. Who tells you the story? No one. Because it's not nice. Even Surendra Bana knew about it, but it's not a nice story to tell, because they should be ashamed. Merchant class rapidly made inroads into business, and they also started to compete with the white people. That is what gave rise to the problems of the 1949 riots. At one time, for every indenture that came, there were 2 or 3 more merchant class people that came here. They exploited. The white settlers felt very threatened because our Indians from Gujarat were good traders. We must applaud them. They had the skill. They were able to beat these white traders who also exploited us. But our merchant class people also exploited us. What did they do? And when we talk about Sarika, you will see how she too was denied from opening a small entrepreneurial business. And this is what the Mercury said. The coolie tradespeople are getting too big for their shoes. This is from the Natal Mercury, which goes back to around 1857. It is no coincidence that this rhetoric is uttered by many left-leaning parties who have no idea of the history of Girmityas, as opposed to that of the merchant class, who are now conveniently and expediently homogenized. We are not. What Ceylon was talking about, he says everybody thinks we all Indians are equal. I'm sorry, we are not. We are disadvantaged. They should have opened another class for us. Against this backdrop, M.K. Gandhi arrived in Durban in 1893 as a legal counsel, serving the material and political interests of merchant Dada Abdullah. The influx of merchant class grew exponentially and had a bearing on the backlash by the white settlers. In 1894, Gandhi formed the Natal Indian Congress. In response to the prevailing anti-Indian sentiment in this country, petitions and legal submissions by the merchant class largely dealt with issues of property and trade. The plight of the poor, the plight of the sick, the suffering, the massacre of Indians by the white farmers, the killing, the murder, the rape. Show me one instance where Gandhi stood up for those people in Blackburn. He was here at that time. All they were interested in was licenses for new stores, requests for Indian businessmen to be allowed to remain in certain areas, and protest at the hostile treatment of British Indians by the Office of the Protector of Indian Immigrants. There was no discussion on the politics of the Girmityas, petitioning by the Natal or Transvaal Indian Congress in respect of the appalling conditions of Girmityas were consistently rhetorical and peripheral. It has been suggested that it was the material interest of merchant Indians that led to the politicization of Gandhi. Munsami Naidu was absolutely correct about the stance on the Congress. When we look at what's happening in Verulam, can't we see anti-Indian racism disguised? We've had farm invasions, we have murders. Phoenix doesn't have water, Verulam doesn't have water. Access to government jobs. Our people are disadvantaged now. Why? We talk about demographics. For how long can we continue with this BE nonsense? If our children on academic merit can't get a place in medical school, what has happened? Who are those people who sold us out in the political transition? Where are they today? They are dead or their voice is silent. Who are the first martyrs of Satyagraha movement? The 5 Indians were killed and 9 wounded at Blackburn and Hillhead Barracks of Natal Estates, Mount Edgecombe on 27th of November 1913. Those who gave their lives have been forgotten. Pachipan Raghavan, Selvan Guruvadu, Subrayan Goundan. One more died of injuries in Avoca Hospital, but the name was not published. At the inquest, which was held before the acting magistrate at Verulam, the doctor who examined the dead said that 5 were shot from the back. If it was your brother or sister, what do you do? Look at what happened during the Phoenix, so-called Phoenix massacre. 11 of our people were arrested. Okay, some of them, they acted out of law. They broke the law. But they defended themselves. But it was tainted as a Phoenix massacre. It's the same thing with 1949 riots. It was the white settlers, the traders, who decided to attack the merchant class. And who was the cannon fodder? The Girmitias. They were the victim of it. Because in Mayville, in other parts of Natal, whose houses got burned? Who got looted? 1985, we had the same problem. Why are we afraid to talk about it? It's our democratic right to talk about it. Not surprisingly, the estate manager who oversaw the episode was exonerated at the inquest. All those killed and injured were Girmitias. This episode is one of the several that describes the brutality inflicted on striking and protesting Girmitias. Until the Lions have their own historians, we have some here today, Anand Jairaj. The history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter, Chinya Cheda. In conclusion, when we remember the arrival day globally, we must always think, what is our future? What can we do to strengthen a community that is in exile in this country? Because we have been forgotten. You can listen to all the nonsense from the president downwards. It's a lot of hot air, right? We are being marginalized and we continue to be isolated. So we need to unite under our Girmitia identity of indenture. I want to talk about this book. This book is written by a historian, Duncan Du Bois. We collaborate with him. He has written many articles. He always gives a factual account of what happened. His source information is the Natal Mercury. Now this book is based on a true story of Sarika Singh. She was a 12-year-old girl. She came here in 1861 with her father and a mother and a brother. When they came to the landing spot in Point, they were taken away to the south coast to a place near Ilovo. The mother and the son, they went to the north coast. Can you imagine how brutal they were to divide a family? Today, if your son or child or family member gets lost, we panic. Imagine then, they had no recourse to bringing the family together. Fortunately with Sarika, she was intelligent. She was able, because her mistress, the white lady, saw in her the intelligence, she made her a house servant. But she understood the language. She was clever. And she later on, she fell in love with the magistrate's son, a white person. And can you imagine the taboo at that time? Just imagine, under colonial times, this is what happened to this girl. But she never gave up. She was ostracized. But there were a few white people who saw in her the potential that she was a very good business person. Her husband died in a blast in the mill in the south coast. And she was supposed to inherit some money. Of course, that too, the racism that exists, she was denied that money. But whatever money she had, she decided, let me empower people, women in particular. So today when you look at our government and they talk about empowerment, who started empowerment in this country? Girmitias. They created opportunities for others. Then there was what is called the sugarcracy. And what is the sugarcracy? It was the government, the mill barons or the sugar barons, and one last enemy for all of us, the media. Today when our story is not being told, is because the media and selected authors spin a narrative to tell you, no, we are free now, I'm sorry. Why do they write that story? Why don't they go and analyze Bana's book properly and make their own analysis of the truth that happened at that time? And ultimately, Sarika Singh, she was able to set up shops, stores, because of her wisdom. She was brutally treated, but whenever there was a problem, you probably know about the RAG Commission. When it went to the RAG Commission, they found nothing wrong. Can you believe it? It's like going now to the scandals that happen in the government, the corrupt that Ceylon were referring to. They are found, they are exonerated for stealing. Why? Because you are part of another sugar crossing. Right? Just forget about them. We need to recreate our identity and persist with resilience. This book is this is the first book that is available. I picked it up last night. We have co-sponsored in this book as a Global Girmitia Center. Our chairperson of Global Girmitia Center is Professor Bagzi Singh. Unfortunately, he regrets he had to be in Mumbai, but he is an intellectual giant in the history of our Girmitias. And we are proud that we've got a retired surgeon who was the head of department of surgery at the KwaZulu-Natal Medical School. We wish to bring in more talent. We want people to write about our history, be content creators, not listen to this old story they talk about in Derby Street. I'm sorry, those people have passed their sell-by date. They have captured it and they are there using that platform for promoting their own political agenda of a dead organization that is 130 years old. This book is available today. I have limited copies. There is no profit on it. It's 200 Rand. Okay? It's very interesting. It's based on true story, and some places the names have been changed just to protect the family involved and the sugar mill in Preston. But if you know Ilovo, that is where this story has been centered around. And it also had a lot of French influence as well. Okay, so never think about the British only, the French were here as well. So thank you to the organizing committee. I have to take leave, and I appreciate the time and effort for Pranil Singh, Nati, and others, and members of the Hindu Unity Forum South Africa for coming this morning. For the first time in the history of South Africa, I would reasonably estimate 250 of our Girmits. They wore a t-shirt making a statement, 1860 to 1911, Girmit Arrival Day. And that is the brand name that is being used globally. There are 17 countries in the world where our indentured family reside. Let us unite with them, because they were part of us when we left either Madras Presidency or Kolkata. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pradeep Ramlal. And now moving on to our next speaker, if we could please have our youth representative, Ms. Amedi Murthy, please.
Respected elders, revered gurus, priests, mulanas, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, members of the Sri Mariamman Temple Society and devotees. Vanakkam, Namaste, Om Sai Ram, and a very good morning, good afternoon to one and all. It is a profound honor to stand before you here today as we commemorate 164 years since the arrival of Indians in South Africa, a moment of deep reflection, pride, and gratitude. This occasion is not just about remembering our ancestors, but it's also about drawing inspiration from their lives to shape our future. In 1860, our forebears embarked on a perilous journey across the Indian Ocean to Natal under agreements to work for the British. They came from Chennai, Kolkata, and other parts of India, carrying with them little more than hope and determination. These men and women toiled relentlessly in cane fields, farms, and industries, laying the foundation for generations to come. But their journey was not without immense hardship. Under oppressive colonial rule, their blood, sweat, and tears enriched the white employers while forging a resilient spirit that would guide us through the ages. Despite such adversity, they never wavered in their commitment in preserving their identity. They built temples, churches, mosques, creating sacred spaces that upheld their faith and culture. It is through their efforts that we have temples such as the Sri Mariamman Temple and many other places of worship in our communities. Festivals became celebrations of unity and resilience, while music, dance, and language flourished, connecting us to our roots even today. Scholars, teachers, and organizations work tirelessly to ensure that our cultural heritage and spoken languages remain vibrant. Their resilience shone brightest in the face of injustice. The Indian community rallied against discriminatory laws, drawing inspiration from Gandhiji's philosophy of passive resistance. They endured police brutality, prison, and punishment, fighting for equality and dignity. Martyrs like Valiyame and countless unsung heroes sacrificed their lives, while leaders like Pumani Amma Phyllis Naidu stood at the forefront of the struggle. Grassroots activists mobilized communities, and Congress movements united people in common cause. The community also bore the weight of the oppressive legislation, such as the Pegging and Group Areas Act, which uprooted families and destroyed thriving neighborhoods. Yet even as they resettled in places like Chatsworth and Phoenix, they rebuilt their lives with determination, turning adversity into opportunity. The community also bore the weight of the oppressive legislation. Their sacrifices carved a legacy of strength, unity, and a commitment to justice. This legacy has shaped us as a community and inspired generations to dream of a brighter, freer future. As we reflect on their journey, we must also look at how each generation has moved forward, adapting to an ever-changing world. Today's world is vastly different from the one they knew. We are connected to the globe in ways our ancestors would never have imagined. Technology connects us across continents, information is at our fingertips, and new ideas shape society every day. Each generation has built upon the last, carrying forward the wisdom of the past while stepping boldly into the future, and today's youth face a unique moment in history. For youth today, this legacy offers both a foundation and a challenge. What do we want to occupy as youth as we move forward? In my view, the youth of today want to occupy spaces of influence and impact in government, business, science, and the arts. They want to be part of decision-making processes, creating inclusive systems that uplift our communities and the country at large. But this isn't about personal ambition. It's about contributing to a shared future that benefits everyone. Another essential role that the youth want to occupy is as preservers of our rich cultural heritage. Our forefathers gifted us a legacy of traditions, languages, and values that have deepened and enriched our lives. In a fast-paced world, these roots keep us grounded and remind us of the values of resilience, respect, and community. Embracing this heritage while we grow in modern society doesn't hold us back. It enriches our lives and brings us a sense of identity and pride. Today's youth also wish to be agents of change on critical issues such as environmental protection, social justice, and equality. They recognize the urgency of these issues and are ready to lead movements and conversations that create a fairer, more sustainable world for all. But ambition and drive alone are not enough. As a community, we must support our youth by giving them the tools that they need: education, mentorship, and the wisdom of experience. Together, we can empower them to honor their heritage while building the future that they envision. But in our pursuit of progress, we must never forget the rich cultural legacy left by our forefathers. Their traditions, values, and heritage enrich our lives to provide us with a sense of identity and pride. Embracing this heritage while moving forward helps us stay grounded in our roots, ensuring that the future we build is informed by the wisdom of the past. I urge the youth of today to get involved in organizations such as the Sri Mariamman Temple and work harmoniously towards the change we want to see. I, as an individual, am deeply moved by this history, and it inspires me to be a part of the creative endeavor that celebrates it. It is heartwarming to see the work that has been done by the Sri Mariamman Temple. As you can see behind me, we have so many monuments which recognizes our history and shows us exactly where we came from. So for the younger generation, it would spark questions as to what does this mean? Ladies and gentlemen, about 5 years ago, I was approached by Mrs. Pushpa Murugan, a Tamil scholar, to sing the lyrics which she penned. The CD that she wanted to produce was a tribute to the journey, sacrifices, and resilience of our ancestors. I accepted this offer and had the privilege of contributing to a CD that tells the story of the arrivals of Indians in South Africa. It is my honor today to present the CD to Mr. Seelan Archery, the chairperson of the Sri Mariamman Temple Society, on this momentous occasion. Mr. Seelan Archery, can you please come on? As we commemorate this significant occasion, let us honor the sacrifices of the past by empowering the youth of today. Let us encourage them to hold on to their heritage, embrace innovation, and lead with courage and compassion. Together, we can ensure that the future is as inspiring as the journey that brought us here. Thank you, and may our shared history continue to guide and inspire us toward a brighter future. Nandri, Vanakkam.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ameli Murthy. We now go into our second dance item. And once again, if I can call on the most beautiful little princess here at the Sri Mariamman temple, and that is Mahatika Veeramani. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Mahatika.
கருப்பாயி நீ வெளுத்தது ஏன் கருப்பாயி தொட மாட்டேன் தொட்டா நானும் விட மாட்டேன் கருப்பாயி நீ வெளுத்தது ஏன் கருப்பாயி தொட மாட்டேன் தொட்டா நானும் விட மாட்டேன் கருப்பாயி வெளுத்தது ஏன் கருப்பாயி தொட மாட்டேன் தொட்டா நானும் விட மாட்டேன்
Wow. Yeah.
Golden
She's one child I can watch the entire day and never get fed up of, I promise you. Thank you so much, Mahatika. I think on behalf of the entire committee, I'd like to thank your mum and yourself for, coming over and sharing your culture for that matter. All right, now before we go on to our next speaker, I think I would not be doing justice as a youth ambassador for the past 3 years in many of the communities if I don't touch on something that's been worrying me. Yes, I think whatever we've been saying from the speaker's point of view is 200% correct. We need to make sure that we remember what happened 1860 onwards. We need to always keep that fire burning so the generations to come will never forget what has happened. But I think very important as well is that we need to continue to tackle the challenges that our communities are facing. Now, there are schools, there are individuals, youngsters in many communities that we live in that are struggling with day-to-day issues. For example, I've been to a school in Chatsworth, a few months ago, and there was a 9-10-year-old, Mahatika's age, and she came to me and she says, I don't want to go to school. Now, which child does not want to go home? Rather, she told me, I don't want to go home. Every child wants to go home. When I used to go to school, the first thing I want to do is, I can't wait to go home and see what mom's cooking and all of that. The child doesn't want to go home because mom and dad are sick, she tells me. The counselor explains to me, no, mom and dad are drugged. So if she goes home, there's no one to really look after her. And if the kids do go to relatives' houses, sometimes they are sexually abused. In Phoenix, there are kids that are exposed to drugs on a daily basis. And it's now becoming out of control because I've spoken to those youth ambassadors in Phoenix. So these are the realities that our kids, irrespective of ethnic groups, religion, at the end of the day as humans, our youngsters are still suffering. And we need to put our foot down with the power that we have in our hand to help these youngsters, else there will not be another generation to come for us to come here to 10 years' time and talk about the 1860. So let's just also keep that in mind as well. I'd like to now call on our next speaker, Mr. Roy Sukhdev from the Giving Hope Foundation.
Vanakkam, Namaste, Salam Alaikum. Firstly, I just want to congratulate the Mount Edgecombe Arts and Culture Committee, together with our leadership, Seal and Archery, for hosting this event here. It's a very important event for us to have come to hear about and listen in order to move forward. It is a very much needed occasion for us all to have a wake-up call. We sit here, we listen, and we go back, and we've forgotten what we listened to, what we came here for. Is that not the truth? What happens from here going forward? Absolutely nothing. There are many organizations that are hosting this program here today, like they've done in the previous years. But what was the outcome of these events? I may not be popular, but the outcome was absolutely zilch. We can stand here and talk like a minister, like a professor, but what are we doing to empower our Indians? Absolutely nothing. I know Seelan for a fact, and myself, we speak on many occasions how the people, the Indian people, are failing us. We need a wake-up call. I cannot emphasize that enough. We are tired of talking. 3 weeks ago, there was a comment in City Hall. Indians must go back to Bombay. we all got upset. I am saying this here in front of you all. Be prepared for us to go to Bombay, because we are not making a contribution for ourselves in our country. Yes, it is our country. What have we done to make our presence felt in South Africa? If somebody can have the courage to stand up and tell me this is what we have done or doing to revive the resilience of our Indian people, that will be a start. And I challenge anybody sitting here today to stand up and say, I am making a change. But if we are not, are we ready to make that change for our survival as Hindus, Christians, and Muslims in this country? Or are we waiting for the West to happen? We talk about unity, yet we go out of the way to divide ourselves. Every community has self-acclaimed leaders. But the self-acclaimed leaders do not want to talk to each other. What kind of resilience do we portray? Absolutely nil. You know, I must compliment Seelan again. He's not my favorite, I'm not his favorite, but we talk a hell of a lot and we have an excellent relationship. I must compliment him and his team that met with the Premier to discuss the monument, something similar to this. It is most meaningful to have something like this. But I also want to appeal to Seelan. Don't forget about that bell, Seelan. That bell is very important. Because without the bell, we Indians are not controlled. Because we stand here and we'll talk and talk and talk. We are given 4 minutes. You go on for 20 minutes. We are not controlled. We are not disciplined. So the bell is needed. The bell that was ringing there, it was a prayer bell. And I thought people would take heed of that prayer bell and cut the sermons short. But thank you. I think I'll have to cut my sermon short now because the bell just rang. Yeah? But ladies and gentlemen, my appeal, I have a passion. We are the most beautiful people on planet Earth, the Indians. Right? Why are we losing it? The only time we become united, and who can tell me that, when do we become united? When we have the fear of the blacks. When there's unrest, the aunties, uncles, ayahs will take the frying pan and stand outside to show the unity. To be prepared for the unrest. Other than that, everything else is forgotten. Watch the space. Seelan and I are working on something to bring the real Indians together, to unite. Even if it sounds like it's a mission impossible, but we are going to try. And that is my last kick of a dying horse, that we need to actually start doing something. Dynamic leaders sitting here, but let us not sit here, listen, and don't do. Join that campaign that's going to be unfolding in the new year, and let us make our voices important and heard, so that nobody else can tell us to go to Mumbai. Let us become the envy of our other race groups in this country. We need that unity. I am not saying we need to isolate ourselves. We need to show social cohesion, embrace the other community. But if we can't embrace ourselves, how are the others going to embrace us? So my appeal is, give it some thought. I sound harsh because my heart is crying because we're dividing ourselves. And the time may just come for us all to be ready and go back. We need to build our own ship and go back to Bombay maybe. So please take the message seriously, and hopefully next year when we come back, we are seeing a different quality of our people that will be attending. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roy Sukhdev of the Giving Hope Foundation. Next, we have the president of the Hindu Unity Forum of South Africa, and that is Professor Irene Macraj.
firstly, thank you, Madam Chair. Namaste, Vanakkam, and Namaskaram to everyone present here today. And I just want to thank all the organizers for inviting me to this very auspicious occasion. I also want to give a shout out to my colleagues in Hafsa, Pranil Bhai, and the rest of them that worked tirelessly so that we could do this. Okay. So my talk today is entitled The Impact of the Indentured or the Grimitia on the Medical Landscape. So I have many luminaries here already who can perhaps, we can make this an interactive talk and you could, give me more information. But I just want to emphasize that this was not an easy talk to do. I'm sure you'll agree with me, because when it comes to medical personnel, there are so many of them, and where do we even start? So I will skip the brief history of the indentured labor in KwaZulu-Natal because you've already heard about it, and go directly into my talk. So many scholars, such as Professor Ashwin Desai, have provided us with a vivid picture of hardships faced by those that came as indentured laborers in this country, toiling under the blistering sun, bringing tears to our eyes when we watch those movies and all of that. I mean, I'm sure most of you would agree with me that when you look at those journeys from roots right up to the indentured, it is a very, very moving journey. But today, I want to take a very different approach. I want to celebrate our ancestors. I want to celebrate the achievements of our people. And what better way to do that than to showcase the medical and the scientific achievements of our community. So no talk on this subject would be complete without us referring to the coolie doctor. Okay? So in this light, all of you know who I'm talking about. It is Dr. Gunam, right? Now, Dr. Gunam was born in 1960, and after studying medicine in Edinburgh, she came back to Durban. I think it was in Grey Street, and she actually started her practice there. So what sets Dr. Gunam apart from everybody? Why did I actually choose her over and above everyone else? The reason is that she was a path breaker. She was a trailblazer. So she basically stood up for women in a repressed community. So not only was she facing, the injustices of apartheid, she was also, as an Indian woman, facing the repressiveness of her own community. But she made all the women around her rise above their circumstances, get out of the kitchens, and achieve success beyond their imaginations. The next trailblazer that I would like to talk about, who's also a woman, I'm sure you can guess who that is. Well, that is Dr. Minnie Kalicharan. Most of you would have heard of her. Okay, now because our talk is supposed to be 4 minutes, I'm just going to cut to the chase. So what stands out about Prof. Kalicharan was that she was a dean of a medical school called the then Natal Medical School. Now, for those of you that don't know, even now you don't get a woman of color as a dean anywhere in the world, at any medical school. I mean, you do get them, but they're not very easy to come by. So can you imagine the enormity of this kind of thing? It was huge in those days. So once again, I can say that these two women left a lasting impression on me. Minnie Kalicharan, Prof. Kalicharan, and Dr. Gunam, and I think it was important to mention them as pioneers. Also very important is the fact that, we have a journal called the British Medical Journal. If you have a look there, there's a wonderful eulogy to her by another great doctor, Dr. Sidak. Okay, so when I was writing this little talk for this occasion, it was very difficult for me to find out who the change makers are. Am I right? But I want you to guess who I'm going to talk about next. There are two stalwarts. One is a stalwart in research, and the other one is in the community. But before I go to that, I'll give you a chance to think about it. So before we go to change makers, I just wanted to mention to you that we have wonderful NGOs like the Gift of the Givers, And we have the very hardworking Ramakrishna and the Sai medical unit. I won't go into detail about it, but just to give you a quick rundown, the Ramakrishna Center, or the clinic that's run by the Ramakrishna Center, is run by a wonderful lady called Dr. Shivani Singh. Now, Shivani Singh has to make great sacrifices before she can actually successfully, execute all these clinics. And you know what? They get a whole lot of people there, allied medical people. Every discipline is represented and so on. And she's also ably assisted by a lot of donors. There are just too many of them. Some of them may be even in this crowd here today. I just want to give you a shout out. But there are many that have contributed financially to this endeavor. But there are also those that have contributed in terms of their, leadership, mentorship, and so on. And the person that stands out the most for me is the renowned surgeon, Prof. Bhagwan Singh or Bagzi Singh. So Bagzi Singh is very much supportive of this, and I just wanted to say thank you to him. Then we have Gift of the Givers with Dr. Soliman, running that. We have the Sai organizations, but it's too much for me to mention them. So two leaders that I said in two fields, one in research and one in community. So who are they? Who will I pick? Okay, the one that I want to actually pick for research is Prof. Jack Mudley. I don't know if you've heard of him. Okay, to those of you that haven't heard of him, in research, and especially at the medical school, we look up a lot to our A-rated researchers. So Prof. Mudley is one of those A-rated researchers. Oh, he was one of those A-rated researchers, and he's done a ton of work on maternal and child health. He writes a publication called The Saving Mothers Report. Often we all write and we talk and all of that, but what is the impact of it? The impact of it is to lower the number of mothers that die in our country, right? So I think that's a very big thing. What is the measure of a really great man? A really great man is not someone who's going to sing his praises, but whom others pick on. And in this respect, Prof. Jack Mudley stands out. Whether you're in an Ivy League institution or wherever, people will come up to you and tell you, do you know Professor Jack Mudley? And I'm very proud to say, yes, I do know him. Okay, now moving on to the community. Who do you think I would have chosen for the community? So I've done a lot of reading on this subject, and I've also asked a lot of people, who should I include in this talk? And as you may know, I was told 100 different names. But I decided to pick out Mr. C.N. Pillai. I think somebody mentioned him. I would like to mention Mr. C.N. Pillai, who graciously founded a hospice for cancer patients in Chatsworth who otherwise would die a lonely death. So without going into detail about C.N. Pillai, I just want to emphasize 2 points. You all, or most of us, have experienced having very close relatives die of cancer. Now, how powerful is it for a man of his stature, I think he was also the head of Department of Anatomy, to take time out from his work to form this hospice in a low resource setting. So I chose these two gentlemen because of their humbleness and that they chose to do this in low resource settings. Often when we talk about esoteric research that never reaches the public, Prof. Mudley will say, but how can we put that in practice in a black provincial hospital? So I reached the end of my talk, but I just wanted to say that there are millions of other stalwarts that I may have not mentioned, like Prof. Jerry Kuvadia, YK Sidat, Kuresha and Slim Kareem, Krishna Somers, Dina Dayalu, and the list goes on. So it's very important that I mention to you that I just gave 2 examples within their fields, but there are several fields, right? And each field has its expert. I chose these 2 people also because of their outreach to the community. And I just want to mention one last thing before I finish. So when we talk about medicine and Gramitia, what comes to mind? what comes to mind to me as a researcher in medicinal plants is how my grandmother would ply me with different sorts of medical assistance when I had a gastrointestinal problem. All of you remember the things that were done to you. Also, you know, like headaches. I don't want to mention mental health, but yeah, I think they also were experts there. But some of the things that I've spoken to another great gentleman, Professor Bajnath. Professor Bajnath is such a resource. I mean, he is one of the living legends of KZN. He knows everything about the medicinal plants, and he said, you know what, just mention some of them, like the tulsi leaves, drumstick, moringa, and turmeric. As a researcher in this field, I can honestly say that these humble herbs have now reached the mainstream scientific literature. So let's not poo-poo them. And also 40% of a lot of the drugs have actually come from plant-based and alternate sources. So in conclusion, I would like to say, I want to emphasize that we need a holistic approach to health, which embraces things like traditional medicine, which our forebears did. That's a one point. The second, the second is when you look at medical well-being, it includes several different facets, such as mental health, physical, spiritual, and a sense of belonging to community. So today, commemorating this day of the arrival of the indentured fosters that sense of community. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Irene Macraj. We now keep it with women empowerment here, and I'd like to call on from the Ottawa Environmental Forum, Mrs. Andisha Maharaj.
Good day, friends and family. My greetings to all of you on this beautiful day when we have to remember our forebears when they set out to sail to Africa. I wanted to take you back 164 years ago to the harbors of India. Experience the jubilation, the exhilaration, the feelings of adventure, the feelings of anticipating this new journey to travel to a far-off land, the land that people call the Dark Land, Africa. What was going through the minds of our forefathers when they set out? What were their expectations that when they would come here, what would their experiences be like? It was a perilous journey. I'm sure many of them hadn't undertaken even a boat ride before then, but here they were so strong-willed and adventurous to want to come out and strike it on their own. Why did they do that? What were they running away from in India? Have we paused to think that given the hardships they experienced in South Africa under white colonial rule, they chose to stay on and persevere? What made them do that? Our historians and sociologists would want to emphasize only the hardships. But what about the human spirit that drove them to come here, to go through all those difficulties and hardships and strike out? We are successful today on the back of what our forefathers did for us. And I want to celebrate every one of them. Those historians will tell us, but they didn't have funds to go back. There were lots of them who had funds, but chose to stay on. What kept them here? Have we stopped to think? I'm going to just take you through to a little village. Blackburn is quite often cited. I had an aunt living there. I promise you, she had a most beautiful home built by the white colonialists compared to the homes in Ottawa. They had brick houses, they had large rooms. We don't talk about these good things that came out from there and what kept them motivated to work. Yes, they were simple people, but in every journey in life there are challenges, and these people were happy to take on those challenges. So let's look at the good things and why they came to South Africa and other places. When I compare the houses of Blackburn, and there were houses here, I know I used to come to the Mount Edgecombe school. There were cottages here. They were beautifully laid out cottages. There were gardens. When I look at our RDP homes today, they are like little matchboxes stuck to each other. People are hovering in next to each other. There's hardly any space. The roads are so narrow and dirty. So were we better off in the colonial days, or are we better off today? And why are we accepting that kind of service delivery that's so pathetic today? And yet we're too quick to criticize the colonial white. Why aren't we doing that to our current government? Why are we accepting of the rubbish service that we receive? When are we going to stand up together and fight these things? If our forefathers could fight the white man, what is stopping us to fight the black man? And tell him that what he's doing and providing is rubbish, and that our leaders have really let us down. We need service delivery at a higher level. We are not living in the 1960s and 1900s. Technology has brought us a long way. Life is much easier. Elon Musk has gone to Mars. He once said that we are all slaves. So we cannot lament the issue that we were kept like slaves. All of us at some time in our lives were slaves. We are not born in royalty. So why lament something that wasn't applicable to us? Why did Indians leave India? What did they hope to find in Africa? And why are they still here? These are questions, hard asking questions. No historian or sociologist has given me answers for. I ask this on every platform that I meet them. So we must take a deep look within ourselves and say, where are we going in South Africa? We want to be patriots. Patriots where? One day the historian and sociologist will tell you, you're South African. Then you get another lot of people tell, no, we are Indian. So who the hell are we? Where do we fit into this new landscape? We have to be patriots to ourselves, our homes, our communities, and then to our country. Don't try to be a patriot out there when your community is falling apart. People have issues. They look for others to sort their problems out. They don't want to take that stand. You call them to meetings, they are too busy. But they want you to fight the issues. That's not possible for one person, not given the landscape that we live in. You need community to work together. That's how apartheid was abolished, because people stood together as a group. And I can't see us moving forward unless the people have buy-in in all the issues and problems we experience at community level. And I am so proud to have the blood running through my vein that I share with my forefathers. They drive me, they keep me motivated to fight back the hardships. And I wish everyone else around me have that same fighting spirit, not to sit back and accept what is dished out to them. I want to thank the Mariamman Temple for having invited the Ottawa Environmental Forum. I sit as a facilitator there. We have major issues going on. There's a smelter that's coming up that's rearing its own ugly head. It's turning me into a chemist. So as a group of people, we need to really rally around, educate ourselves constantly, and keep abreast with the issues that we deal with. Thank you all. Enjoy the celebrations that have been set up, and attend to your community events. Thank you.
Let me buy. Our very wonderful moonlight. You reckon, hey, call Rajan, make open account and all that. Did you take anything away? No. Let me buy them. Yeah. See.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Andisha Maharaj from the Ottawa Environmental Forum. That was quite interesting. We now move on to RAGE, and if we could call on Kogi, who is the Vice Chairperson of RAGE, to come on, please, and share a few words.
Vanakkam, Namaste, Namaskaram, and good afternoon to all. I want to thank the organizers to allowing us this platform to say a few words. Today, as we gather to commemorate Rumathiya's arrival day, we are reminded of the strength, resilience, and the courage of our ancestors who endured unimaginable hardships to pave the way for the lives we live today. Let us take a moment to honor their sacrifices and remember their dreams, which echo through the generations as a guiding light for our present and future. I stand here today not only as a representative of RAGE Community Outreach, but as a proud member of a community that values remembrance, service, and the empowerment that they have given to this country. RAGE Community Outreach is deeply committed to addressing the needs of our community through a variety of impactful programs. Our programs include community upliftment. We organize food drives and host events to support underprivileged families, youth empowerment initiatives through mentorship programs, career guidance, workshops, and skill building sessions. We aim to nurture the leaders of tomorrow. Elderly care. We prioritize the well-being of our elders, ensuring that they feel cherished and supported through health screening, social gatherings, and assistance with daily needs. Environmental awareness. RAGE Community Outreach, under the leadership of Mr. Charles Naidu, actively promotes sustainability by leading community cleanups, tree planting campaigns, and environmental educational workshops. These programs are our way of honoring the legacy of our ancestors by fostering unity, hope, and resilience within our community. A message for today. Rumathiya Arrival Day reminds us to reflect on the indomitable spirit of our forebears. They carry the weight of adversity, yet sowed the seeds of opportunity for us. It is our duty to remember their stories, not as tales of sorrow, but as testimonies of strength, endurance, and unwavering faith. To our youth, I say, you are the living legacy of those who came before us. Let their struggles inspire you to build a future rooted in compassion, equality, and progress. Stay connected to your roots, and they are the foundation of your growth. Embrace the values of hard work, respect, and community that our ancestors embodied. In conclusion, as we remember and honor those who endured so much for our freedom and prosperity, let us pledge to keep their legacy alive. Through the work of RAGE Community Outreach and the collective efforts of our community, we can ensure their sacrifice were not in vain. Together we will continue to uplift, empower, and inspire. Thank you, and may we always walk in the footpaths of those who came before us, while carving a brighter path for those who will follow. Nandri, thank you.
so much, ma'am. Now we move on to communications spokesperson and liaison of the Barrenham Water Crisis Committee, as well as the Tongaat Tornado Disaster Coordinator, Mr. Roshan Lil Rahim.
I think they did that deliberately when they took away the lectern. A very good afternoon to you, esteemed and honorable guests, Master of Ceremonies. A very warm greeting from the Barrenham Water Crisis Committee and the Tongaat Tornado Disaster Committee. It is a profound moment to stand before you here today, this afternoon, as we commemorate the 164th anniversary of the indentured arrival of Indians in South Africa. This momentous occasion allows us to reflect on the rich tapestry, the history, the resilience, and contributions of the Indian community, the Girmitia people, as they have become known worldwide, that have played an integral role in shaping the fabric of our nation, South Africa. In 1860, the first indentured laborers arrived on our shores. But if you look back at history, you'd realize and know that Indians first came to Africa in 1650. India was not a country that was backwards, but it was one of the most powerful nations that was a seafaring nation that sent many expeditions worldwide, particularly in search of jewelry, gold, diamonds, and precious stones. If one visits the Mpumalanga province, you'd find that a few centuries old temple is found there. If you go to Namibia, you'd find that there's an old temple dating back as far as 1650. So Indians have come to Africa long before 1860, but they were conned, they were trafficked in the 1860 by the colonialists. These pioneers were victims of one of history's darkest chapters of what is known as human trafficking. People call it slavery, people call it indenture. I call it the correct word, human trafficking. And it was perpetrated by the British Crown and abetted by various other nations across the world. We've heard that France was also involved. But despite the unimaginable hardships that they endured, they laid foundations in South Africa for future generations, ensuring that the legacy would be one of strength, unity, and cultural pride, as we've seen on display here this morning and throughout the day. As we reflect on the past, let us also celebrate the significant strides we have made as a people and as a community, having come from across the oceans to this land that we have now called our home. From thriving in various professional fields to contributing to the arts, medicine, culture, the economy, the Indian community has become an indispensable part of South Africa and our diverse tapestry. Our achievements stand as testament to the hard work and determination of our forebears. The father of democracy, as he's called, the late President Nelson Mandela, he said at the centenary celebration for the Gandhi movement, he said these profound words: the Indian community has made a rich and varied contribution to the struggle for freedom and democracy in South Africa. His words reminds us of the pivotal role our ancestors played in shaping the democratic society we live in today. Sadly, the Indian of today do not participate in civic organizations. We don't attend civic meetings. We don't attend community organizations. We have become professional complainers. And we would rather complain
when services are not delivered, but when meetings are held, we choose rather to watch soccer on TV, go to the market, and ignore our civic duties. As long as we continue behaving in that way, we will continue being left out and sidelined out of many discussions that we should shape and we should be included therein. So it is your duty, it is your civic duty to ensure that you are involved, that you are participating in these organizations. Don't leave yourself out of these programs. Many of these programs foster economic growth within the community. They talk about entrepreneurship. They talk about small business development. And you'd find that only one race group would attend these functions and Indians choose not to go. If you continue to behave that way, you exclude yourself from the developmental agendas that are out there. How do we move forward as a community? How do we move forward as the future of the Girmitya people in South Africa? We need to preserve our heritage as is being done by the Mount Edgecombe Cultural Society, as is being done by many organizations in South Africa, across South Africa today, commemorating this event. But it should not be an event only that brings people together. It should be something that is done on a monthly basis or a regular basis. We need to continue to celebrate and preserve our cultural heritage and deal with issues in society that continue to attack us as a community. Just recently, we celebrated Deepavali right here at this institution. There was a beautiful celebration that was held, and it spread throughout the world where Deepavali was celebrated. But at the same time, in the media, the Indian community was demonized by many societies because of a thing like fireworks. It caused some sort of evil to arise in society. And yet we talk about social cohesion. You see, these are the functions that when we have these functions, we need to invite other race groups. We need them to embrace our culture so that they can be part of us and we can be part of them. If we continue to exclude people in our culture, then unfortunately we will continue to be demonized by society. We need to look at restorative justice projects for our community. Where people are struggling with legal challenges, there needs to be a body that would rise up and start to defend the dignity of our people and move forward in terms of restorative justice projects. There's issues that our previous speakers have raised where land grabs have started to take place in the past years in the Verulam area, canelands, cottonlands in Nanda, and the surrounding sugar belt areas. Where are the legal buffoons in the area, the boffins that should be coming out, the advocates that should be saying, we'll champion your cause, we will protect your rights, and we'll do it free of charge. Yes, if you can afford it, pay for the service, but let them be a service that is there that will protect our people. In closing, I want to say, we need to stir up dialogue on an international basis regarding reparation for the indentured and for the indentured Indians, or the Girmityas rather, and the journey that we have tread from India to Trinidad, Tobago, Fiji, South Africa, and many other nations across the world. What am I saying? We need to look at reparation. We need to take a fight, whether it's to the United Nations or to some international hall of justice, and champion these rights to say that we need our voices heard. Our voice is silent. Our voice is only echoing in these halls. Our voice is not being heard on an international stage where we could demand for restorative justice for the slavery, for the human trafficking, for the hostilities, for the rape of our women and children, for the flogging of our men, for the murder of our people in the sugarcane belts, of South Africa and around the world. Restorative justice also speaks of reparation. So we need reparation for our people. If we can't do that, unfortunately, we will continue having these functions to try and talk about social cohesion. South Africa had a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Where is the Truth and Reconciliation Commission for the Girmitia people? Ask yourself that. That is a way forward. That is what I want to leave with you today. In the words of Mahatma Gandhi, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Let us honor our past by serving our communities with dedication and compassion. In closing, let me leave you with the words of late Desmond Tutu. My humanity is bound up in yours, for we can only be human together. Let us together forge a path of progress, ensuring that the Girmitia communities continue to shine brightly in the heart of South Africa and on the global stage. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roshan, who is the spokesperson and liaison of the Barrenham Water Crisis Committee and the Tonga Tornado Disaster Coordinator. We now go into yoga. And if I could call Ms. Karishma Ramnath to share her expertise in yoga, and let's see how it can help us in our everyday life.
Namaste everyone. I am Karishma Ramnath. I'm a yoga teacher, and today we're going to do a really quick mini breathwork exercise. So before we start, I just want to give you a little background around breathwork. In yoga, we classify breathwork under pranayama. So pranayama means the extension of our vital force within us through conscious breathing. So most of the time we breathe unconsciously, just for survival. But if we can control our breath, if we can befriend our breath, we can be able to control how we feel. We can control how we respond to things, shift our moods. We can go from feeling moody to calm, feeling sluggish to energetic, distracted to more focused. And so today I want to teach you guys, and we're going to do a little practice together. It's called the double breathing exercise. So this really allows us to bring in more energy within our bodies, as well as release any tension that we may hold in our backs, in our shoulders, or any parts of our body. So first I'm going to show you how it's done, and then we'll all do it together while we're seated. So it's basically, double breathing exercise is basically one short inhale followed by a long inhale. So like this. And then it's a short exhale through the mouth followed by a long exhale. So I'm going to do it one more time. Okay, so if you wish, you can stand up to do it. Otherwise, seated is also okay. So let's all get ready to do this.
Energy is coming, energy is coming.
Okay. So we'll slowly get ready. We can relax the shoulders down, relax our hands down, hold them on our thighs, keeping our back straight. We'll first take a normal breath in and out. And then we'll begin with the double breathing. So, okay, we'll do this 5 times. Again. 3 more times. keep going. One more time, and we're going to add something extra to it. So, okay, now from here, we're going to add little movements with our bodies. So we're going to allow to any tension build up, any discomfort we're feeling anywhere, we are going to gently release that. So how we're going to do this is by physically tensing up our body. So we're going to make a fist and really squeeze. So after we're inhaling, we're going to hold for 2 seconds, make a really tight fist, and squeeze with all our might, and then we're going to exhale and let it go. So I'll show you one round. Double breath in, make a fist and hold and really squeeze as much as you can, and then let it go on a double breath out. Okay, so double breath in, hold and squeeze, and out. We'll do it 4 more times. In, hold the fist, squeeze with all your might, and let go. In again, hold, let the tension build up, and let it go. Breathing in, building up the tension in our bodies. Let it all go. One last time. And really hold with all your might. Build up, let the tension, let the tightness build, and let it all go. And shake the hands out. Okay. We'll gently, we'll come back to our bodies to settle down. So we'll take a few deep breaths in and out. Take a deep breath in, taking in the vibrant energy and out. Relaxing the body, softening the shoulders. Again, in and out. 2 more times, in. Taking in the vibrant energy and out. Letting anything that's weighing us down go. 1 more time, in and out. Can gently bring our palms together and rub it. We'll generate some heat, feel that warmth in between our palms. And then we can place them over our eyes. So place it over the eyes, cover the eyes. Feeling that warmthness, we'll gently rub it down the face and down all through our bodies. So that is a very simple double breathing technique. You can do it at any time of day. Whenever you need a quick boost, you need to improve your alertness. And thank you all for practicing with me. And also lunch will be served now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, you can remain seated, as I was told that these lunch parcels will be brought to you at your seat. So you can stay relaxed at your seat. They will be distributed to you. Now, whilst that is being done on the back, if we could please have our next speaker, who is Ruwaida Sheikh, Fatima Zahra's women's group.
Hi and good afternoon to everybody. I'm Ruwaida Sheikh and I represent Imam Hussein alayhi salam Mosque, the women's movement is Fatima Zahra alayhi salam forum. It is a great pleasure and pride and privilege that we gather today to commemorate the arrival of the first Indians in South Africa. It is a great pride and privilege that we gather today to commemorate the arrival of the first Indians in South Africa on November 16, 1860. We pay tribute to our forefathers who bravely left the motherland in pursuit of a better life for themselves and their families. Their selfless sacrifice and resilience has enabled us to thrive in this beautiful, bountiful country. As we reflect on the remarkable journey, we acknowledge the countless challenges they faced, the unknown dangers, unforgiving conditions, and unrelenting hardships. Today we honor their legacy and an undeniable mark they have left on South African society. We celebrate our heritage, our culture, and the valuable contributions that Indian South Africans have made to the country's growth and development. Let us take a moment to remember the struggles and triumphs of our ancestors and let their courage and determination inspire us to bring a brighter future for generations to come. Our Indian forefathers arrived in South Africa seeking a better life, but instead they faced unimaginable hardships and racism under the oppressive apartheid regime. Despite the adversity, they persevered, preserving and practicing our rich heritage, traditions, and values. Through their unwavering dedication, they maintained our religious practices, cultural identity, and union of the community. Today, we proudly stand as South African Indians, the largest Indian diaspora outside of India. We honor our forefathers' resilience, determination, and sacrifices, which paved the way for our freedom and prosperity. Their legacy is testament to the strength and solidarity of our community. We salute their courage in the face of adversity and acknowledge the countless contributions that they have made to South Africa's social, economical, and cultural fabric. May their story continue to inspire future generations to cherish our heritage and promote unity and diversity. We express our sincerest appreciation to our pioneering forefathers for bestowing upon us a cultural heritage of immense value. Globally, our community is renowned for its unwavering commitment to traditional practices and faith. International visitors often remark on the remarkable preservation of our cultural identity despite being situated in a westernized society far from our ancestral roots. This enduring legacy is a direct result of our forefathers' foresight, perseverance, and determination. Their sacrifices enabled successive generations to cherish and honor our heritage even as we navigate the complexities of modernity. We pay tribute to their vision and their contributions, which continue to inspire our community. We honor the sacrifices of our forefathers, whose vision has gifted us a vibrant cultural heritage. As one community, may we forever stand strong, proud South African Indians, embracing our differences and celebrating our shared humanity. Like the spices that flavor our curries, may our differences blend in harmony, enriching our community and nourishing our souls. I thank you.
So, quick commercial. All of you have wallets or you can do EFT. You know, temples rely on donations. We should change that, Mr. Jason, to tithes. Huh? Collect 10% every month without fail. You can throw your hopes up in the air and hope for the best. So we've got 3 more speakers, and we want you to give them your undivided attention. The idea behind bringing so many of these people from different organizations was to unite what little we have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Seelan Archery. If we could call on the next speaker, that is a Shellcross activist, human rights lawyer, Mr. Preben Vedan. Thank you.
Thank you. Leadership of the Sri Mariamman Temple, led by Mr. Seelan Archery, religious leaders, civic leaders, members of the community, Vanakkam, Namaste, Salam Alaikum, Sani Bonani, good day. Let me firstly start off by thanking Mr. Archery for inviting me over to the temple. I must say this is probably one of the most beautiful temples I've visited anywhere in the world. I also want to thank Mr. Stanley Munsami who's here. Mr. Munsami was the person who motivated for me to be given a space to speak. And I think it's important that we have these types of conversations. Conversations that are sometimes uncomfortable, conversations that we don't necessarily agree on. But it's important that we start a process of speaking. And somewhere in between our discussions, we can start to find each other. So I also want to acknowledge every speaker that spoke today. The other speakers spoke in depth about how we got to this space. But our ancestors faced racism, poverty, sexism. There wasn't much that was expected of them. But they refused to be defined by their circumstances. And today, their dream, the seeds that they planted, is what we enjoy today. Today in our communities, we have doctors, we have lawyers. We came from being there in that position to where we are today. I think next year, Mr. Archery, I'm going to volunteer to dress up as the indentured laborer. And as Indian diaspora, one of the speakers asked the questions is, what are we doing here? As Indian diaspora, we've contributed to the socio-economic makeup of this country, to the cultural makeup of this country. Another speaker asked for us to volunteer if we had made a difference. And I want to say people like Stanley Munsami, who does a lot of work behind the scenes, on the ground, interacting. I speak to him almost daily about the work he's doing to improve people's lives. And these leaders do exist amongst all of us. But our identity as Indian people, it seems to be the biggest question right now. Part of it comes from India. A larger part of it comes from being a South African slave that was from India. And then it's also about us evolving. Our identity now is shaped by other cultures. It's a different time and a different space to where when we speak about the past, it's a different time and a different space right now. The biggest challenge that I've seen amongst our community, amongst the Indian community, is that at this stage, when we were indentured laborers, our people came together for education, for family, for religion. But right now, the solidarity that they had, we don't have anymore. Within our communities, we have leaders. But the moment those leaders are given a platform, immediately they are torn down. The people who criticize them, you often find the reason for the criticism is because of benefits, because they want to get opportunities. But it's about time that we put that mentality aside and we started coming together, supporting one another, regardless of which sector, whether it's religious, political, business. We need to start coming together. Otherwise, we'll get nowhere. You know, I've seen other organizations, associations, religious groupings come together. The goal of each generation is for us to be better or improve on the previous generation. Many of us have been privileged to an extent. I can say that I'm a product of my parents. My mother's actually here with me today. But we must also realize that many people, whether they are Indian, black, colored, white, they have not been afforded the same opportunities. There are still people that are living in poverty. And maybe it's time for us to now realize that the national question is no longer race. The national question is class. And just like how some of us were given opportunities or platforms to be associated to people and uplift ourselves, it's time for us to give back to those that are poor and those that are needy in our society. The lessons from our forefathers, they need to continue. We need to continue spreading awareness. I must say, even with the lessons I learned from indentured laborers, many of which I've learned this year, and some of which I'm still learning as well. We need to start to also find real leaders. I often get called a youth leader, and I keep telling people I'm 32 now, I'm middle-aged. We need to start bringing in younger people. So education is important, and when we talk about leadership, it doesn't necessarily have to be political leaders. You can be a leader in your family, in your religious grouping, and just be a responsible person. Lastly, I want to end off with a quote that I picked up from Ravi Pillai, and that is that I refuse to be inferior to anyone, and I claim superiority over no one. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker, or second last speaker, is from the Phoenix Police Forum, and that is Mrs. Valpillay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to greet you in a number of vernacular languages, so please bear with me if I don't pronounce it properly, but I'm learning. So I want to say Namaste, Vanakkam, Sanbanani, and Salam Walaikum. Am I saying it correct? Hopefully I am. Okay, so my presence here today actually serves a two-purpose route. The first one is to create awareness of safety to you all. And the second one, which I'm finding incredibly knowledgeable, is learning about the rich culture of our Indian forefathers. So thank you for that, Mr. Archery, and all of the other learned people that were here before me. Really do appreciate the experience. The Community Police Forum in Phoenix has been recognized as one of the largest forums in KZN. We've got over 970 Community in Blue members. How many of you sitting here today are aware of that? Nobody. Should I take it as nobody? So I just want to thank Mr. Archery again for giving us this platform. This is a platform where we educate our communities about what the Community in Blue is all about. We are the ears and the eyes and the sub-forum of SAPS. Okay, that is supposedly our role. But what I want to reiterate here today is that the unrest actually has made this Community in Blue Forum in Phoenix especially stronger, united, and more enthusiastic about fighting crime in our area. So I want to also say to you here, just aligning ourselves with the 1860 settlers that came to India. I don't know as Indians whether we are easily led, but a lot of our folk turn to be victims of scammers. If some stranger comes to your home, I know that we have a welcoming and embracing approach to any person that enters our doorstep. However, in this day and age, you have to be very cautious. We've been called out like 3 occasions where strangers have gone into homes, into the living room, made themselves comfortable, even being asked by the owners of the home to prepare tea or food, and then found themselves drugged. Okay? I see some of you are standing up and walking away, which is good, but this information is very important for us all that are here today. So when you are drugged, all of your valuables, all of your money is being stolen. The second part of it is that we are also fueled by greed. And I'm going to say this with unapologetic sentiments. When someone enters your home and they give you the indication that they can double your money at home, you are so eagerly bringing all your money from the safe just to have it doubled. And what do you know? The next thing, you are scammed. And then you're running to SAPs, you're running to everybody else, telling them about your ordeal. But have you actually exercised caution? So my appeal to everyone here today is when you get people coming to your door, please, by all means, you're welcome to embrace them, but not in your homes. The second part of it is that we allow anyone to work for us. Cheap, unskilled labor is what we go for. So if you will see someone on the road, you ask them to bring someone to help you in your home as for domestic chores. You also ask them to help bring someone for gardening, only to find yourself in a very risky situation. Here again, we are appealing to our communities. Please, if you are hiring people, make sure that you get references. Make sure that you thoroughly cross-check them before you let them into your homes and into your property. In closing, I want to invite our communities. We are having a social awareness program that's on the 28th of November at 6 o'clock at Greenberry Hall. So please, if you are available, we'd like to see you there. I'm not going to go on. There was a whole lot of items that I wanted to actually sensitize you, but I know that it's lunchtime or it's beyond lunchtime, and the energy levels, although we had a yoga class, is running low. So I'm going to stop it at that. But if you do wish to communicate or you want to get in contact with us, we are available. We will be putting our details out on social media. So please find yourselves. We are very easy to communicate with. If you need anything that you want us to help you with, let us know. Thank you, everybody, for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Bell Pillay. We move on to our very last speaker now, and that is Mrs. Kogina Machri, Indentured Labourers Foundation, Barrelham.
Namaste, Vanakkam, Om Sai Ram, Namaskaram, Assalamu Alaikum. Good afternoon, Salibanani, ladies and gentlemen. As the last speaker, I'm going to keep my speech very, very short. At the outset, I'd like to acknowledge the president of the 1860 Indentured Labourers Foundation, Mr. J.S. Singh, who is a leading statesman, an elderly, and a walking encyclopedia in terms of indenture, its legacies and histories. If you need to know anything, you are free to welcome him. He's right here in the front with his blue shirt. And don't be fooled by him having a walker. That mind is really active and knows everything that needs to be known. I also want to acknowledge all other members of the 1860 Indentured Labourers Foundation who are here today. Also, I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Seelan Ashri for making it possible for all these various organizations to come together today and to add their voice to what is happening in our country. And it is really important, strategic, and it should be life-changing actually. We should stop being as latent as we are and become more vociferous in terms of our approach to how we handle day-to-day issues. I also want to acknowledge all the speakers before me and to say all protocol observed. So, what is my speech today going to focus on? So we've heard already about what has happened in the last 164 years, since 1860. So, I have been given the task and been asked to speak on the way forward. So I'm now looking and I'm going to share information in terms of 2025 and the 165th anniversary of the arrivals of indentured laborers to South Africa. So, we in Verulam have embarked on a program of planning already. And all organizations who are here today are invited to make contact with me or with Mr. Singh or with Mr. Naren Rajvansi, who's here as well from our organization, to look into what is the plan for next year. So at the outset, one of the programs that we have in place is going to be taking place in August next year. So why August? So we are inviting an international organization which is based in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. So that organization runs a weekly Zoom program every Sunday evening at 9 p.m. South African time. But in their attendance, they have people from America, the United Kingdom, the Caribbean, Europe, India, other parts of Africa, and even other parts of the world, including Fiji, the Philippines, Mauritius, other islands, especially where Indian indentured laborers went to in terms of modern-day slavery and carrying out the tasks as expected of indentured laborers. So there is this NPO that runs every Sunday evening, and I am a member that attends that Sunday evening program. And there's a variety of topics. And one of the topics is this issue of Girmitia Day, Arrival Day, etc., etc. So this team from Trinidad and Tobago, especially with people from other parts of the world, will be visiting us next year in August. It's like almost a 21-day trip that they have planned. They want to host a conference on Girmitia. They want to host a conference on what are the current challenges facing Indians throughout the world. So you will all be invited. As long as we have your email address, we have your cell phone numbers, your contact details, either individually or via your organizations, we will be able to then be in contact with you, make announcements in terms of the 3-day conference. Thereafter, they want to do a tour. So we will be bringing them to this temple. We'll be taking them to Stanger. We'll be taking them to Pietermaritzburg. We'll be taking them to Howick. We'll be taking them to many parts of the province. You know, they will be based between Verulam and Umhlanga. So we will be looking for support as well in terms of legal support, logistics, transportation, meals, accommodation. So we want to make this a really successful 2025 venture. After spending about maybe 10 days in Natal, going to various sites, they will want to then move to Johannesburg for 2 or 3 days, and then to Cape Town, and then back to their homes thereafter. So, ladies and gentlemen, in brief, I invite all of you to make contact with me so you can be part of the 2025 Girmitia program and heritage and celebrations of 165 and commemoration of 165 years that we will be in this country. Thank you very much. Nandri.
Thank you so much. And now, on behalf of the Sri Mariamman Temple, the committee, Mr. Seelan Archery and the rest of the team, we would like to say a very big thank you to every single one who has graced us with their presence. But I think it's good to end off on a sweet note, and with that, I'd like to say a very big thank you to Jenny Maharaj, who is now going to come on board and do 2 items for us. So whilst you can sit, relax, the rest of your lunch is being provided, as you can see, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Once again, thank you so much.
Pushing your tree.
For all the Hindu Unity Forum members, the buses will be leaving shortly, just to let you know. Thank you so much.
Check sound 1, 2. Check sound 1, 2. Sound 1, sound 1, 2. Prime Minister, Vanakkam, Assalamu alaikum, and a very good afternoon to such a beautiful audience. I want to say I feel very honored. Thank you, Mr. Seelan Archery, for this beautiful function. He always makes it happen for our people of arts and culture. I'm going to do 3 items. Thank you, and our sound gentleman's in a hurry to go. I actually prepared 2 hours, but next time. Thank you. Thank you.